welcome into the Between the Ears show, and we are joined by Eugene Napoleon this week, co-host of the Walkthrough Game Day show and host of Relatively Sports here on the Mountaineers Now channel on YouTube and on our site. So a lot of news happened today. We've got the new AD has been named and hired officially. The university has already sent out the press release for that, and Neal Brown potentially, probably, more than likely, going to stay as the head coach, as West Virginia head coach heading into 2023. And then also one player's already made his decision for the future. So let's go and get into it in that order. Let's start with the new athletic director. Today, West Virginia announced that they have hired North Texas athletic director Wren Baker, and his deal will be for 6 years and an average of $1.1 million per year, plus incentives. Jeans. That's a lot to swallow there.
Yeah. Listen, that's it. Let's clap it up for that, man. Hold on. Let's clap it up for that, man. All right. So that means he can get some extra fries.
Yeah.
He can get extra fries, some cheese for that burger, a few appetizers. Man, listen, that's a lot of cabbage.
Yes, it is. And with that, he's going to have a lot of big time decisions that he's going to have to make. Obviously, Neal Brown being one of them, that's kind of the early indications are that he's going to be staying. But at some point in time, I mean, this is a 6-year deal. If he lives to the end of that contract, there's a good possibility he may have to find a new men's basketball coach, because Bob Huggins, let's face it, is not getting any younger and probably doesn't have a whole lot more left in him. So that's going to be a tough decision, as long as many other things, dealing with the NIL, transfer portal. And that's kind of where I want to start, because this kind of seems like a hire that was made specifically to enhance the university and the athletic programs funding, I should say, to not only retain players, but to go out and get some of these guys too, whether it be the high school ranks or the transfer portal. Right. There has to be a stronger NIL presence at West Virginia. I don't think that's a secret. Like it needs to certainly improve. And that's why it seemed like a big reason why Shane Lyons is no longer here, because he wasn't willing to go to the lengths that the administrators wanted him to go to. So you get a young, hip, new guy in here that's probably more aligned with these sort of things, that knows how to maybe navigate some of this, and doesn't. And Gene, this is interesting. He's the second AD ever in the school's history to not have any prior ties to the university or the state.
Yeah. I mean, well, you just said a mouthful there, Scholar, and it all makes sense when you're talking about business. Stuff is not personal, it's business. Now, when you get a person that's not aligned with the university, the city, the state, there's a reason for that. And there's a reason why you go out specifically with that in mind when you're casting, your rod long and wide, because there may be something here that we need that we did not have, in the latter AD. And again, no knock against, if you don't know this stuff, you don't know this stuff, period. This stuff can get a little bit complicated, but if you get a younger guy that's pretty much in line with this, he kind of understands where to go, how to tap into other resources that you desperately need if you want to compete at this next level. And we do want to compete at this next level. We got to get back to the point, Scholar, where we're playing for yeah, man, we have to. So to bring in a new, younger AD with a different perspective and maybe a different lens on things, I'm completely with it. I forgot which university it was, or even what conference. It may have been somewhere in the SEC. I was listening to somebody talk about the kind of money that they have set aside for NIL deals, man. It was north of like 20 million. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I don't know. What? So I'm saying, like, okay, I get it. Now, that stuff, man, again, these schools who have these different firms, these different PR, attachments to their athletic department and all that stuff, you got to do it a different way now that it's legal. You got to do it a different way if you want to compete at that level with these other programs. It's just that simple.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of at a very big, important part of kind of college athletics as a whole, because we may see a lot of shifting going on here. Like there might be schools that all of a sudden become top of their conference, just because they have big pockets, right? Or it might be the other way around. Those that have competed well for a long time, but maybe they just had really good coaches and recruited well, underrated guys. They may fall toward the bottom because they don't have the money to go out and get these kind of guys. And let's face it, the world of recruiting today, it's not so much about I'm going here because I really like this coach and I feel like I fit this scheme well and I really like the facilities. Yes, that is a part of it, but a lot of it now, Gene, the number one thing is this. And if you don't have this, you're not going to get a lot of those top guys.
I'm gonna share something with you that you're gonna think I'm totally crazy, and the fan base gonna think Napoleon totally lost it. Check this out. When I coached Scholar, I won more games with supposedly guys that was not as talented as the competition we were playing against. A lot of you not. The end of the day, it still comes down to coaching. It still comes down to developing what you have and knowing what you have. I guarantee you're still going to see schools, no knock against these schools and about the name. There's a specific reason why I'm saying this. Baylor, Kansas, Iowa State, those type of programs that typically do not get blue chip student athletes every single year in a given recruiting class. You go down their rosters, tell me in those three schools, matter of fact, if you combine all three of them,
Yeah.
in the last 4 recruiting years, right? We'll use Neal Brown's tenure. In the last 4 recruiting years, combine those 3 rosters and tell me how many supposedly 5 stars or 4-star kids you have on those rosters. All 3 of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you do that, you're going to find out that's very comparable. But number two, the big problem, or I should say the big difference is those guys have been able to keep their players. West Virginia is
Look,
not. They're losing
that's
guys.
my point.
They're losing
That's
guys
my point.
because they don't have the money to retain them.
That's my point. Those guys know how to recruit players, not stars, players. And then when you get them in your program, you coach them up, you develop those kids. They're there for a reason. You know why? Because a lot of those kids wasn't the kids that will be looked at that's going to come with money or for money because they were not 5 and 4 and 3-star kids.
Yeah.
There's a mentality to those type of kids. The grind and the pride for those kids, and when they get there, they're appreciative to put that uniform on for a reason. It's a different mentality. Those are the kids that I coached. And that's why we won so many games at every level I coached at, because give me that guy that somebody else told, well, we don't want him, he's too short. Give him to me.
I'll do something with him.
Yeah, give me the guy that, oh, he's not as fat. Give him to me. Because I understood when you tap into that, come on, man, it's a problem because they're just as happy that you want them and they want to play hard for you. They'll knock down 4 walls and 8 buildings for you. Those are the type of kids that you have to get. All the rest of that stuff, you can get 1 or 2 guys who's going to cost you $1 million. And after 1 year, they're not happy. They go someplace else for $2 million. And what's the point? You're back to square one anyway.
Yeah.
So you have to be smart enough to mix that up.
I think the biggest question is like, how do you get like Akeem Messidor is a great example. Now we don't even know exactly why he transferred. We have a good feeling as to why. But out of high school, he was kind of under recruited. You know, if these big time schools would have been in on him out of high school, I don't think West Virginia would have got him. I'm just being truthfully honest. It came down to like West Virginia, Pitt, and UCLA, or West Virginia, Pitt, UCLA, Syracuse, maybe. But again, there wasn't like the Miamis and the Ohio States and the Texas Notre Dames of the world that were in on him heavily. They may have showed interest, but how do you keep those guys that maybe you went to Canada and you found Akeem Messidor, you groom him, you develop him into this star player, and then all of a sudden he's no longer on your roster because these bigger, pocketed schools come and get him. How do you keep that from happening?
I'm gonna be honest with you, and now because of where we are, that's almost it's almost inevitable. That's going to happen. You're going to lose 1 to 2 of those, maybe 3 of those a year. But that can't be your core. That cannot be your core recruiting. Everything has to be 5 stars and 4 stars or bust, because you're not going to be able to sustain that if you don't have, as you said, the deep pockets. So you're better off lining yourself up with kids that really want to be there for the right reasons, and then you might get 2 or 3 of those type of, I'm not sure if I'm going to be here with you for 4 years anyway type kids. I just think that the culture of where college recruiting is, basketball and football wise, I think the whole thing has changed so much. Yeah. You're going to have kids each year, Scholar, that you're just going to lose. And it could be it may not even have anything to do with the coach, the staff. It, like you said, it comes down to the do-re-mis. It comes down to the cabbage. But I'm so old school that I've never believed, I told you, I've never believed in that 5-star nonsense, that 4-star nonsense, because there's a lot of rosters that have players on it that don't have that, but they consistently win football games. They consistently win basketball games. So how do you justify, I'm going to go all in because I got to get a 5-star kid who may not pan out anyway?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough situation. I think, like, for some of those kids like Akeem Messidor that were, maybe a high rated 3-star, it's come down to relationships. Like, you have to, at the end of the day, like, before this all came into play, the NIL, the transfer portal, it was about relationships. But I think it's even more about that now, because when you get a guy like Messidor who's overlooked a little bit and is not rated as highly as some of these other kids coming out, you have to be super tight with him. Like, you have to show how much you're there for him and that you're going to develop him and put him in the best position to succeed after football, not just into the NFL, but life after football too. And if you don't have that, I don't know the relationship between Brown's staff and Messidor and if that was a reason or not. But if you have that tight knit relationship, I think you're going to see more success stories for those kids staying instead of maybe playing higher level, to a Miami or something like that.
Here's what I don't understand. Okay. You come in and you're starting at a Power 5 program.
Yeah.
You're being developed because you're playing. So you're getting better if you're working on your craft. Okay. You pretty much aligned yourself with all conference potential to get your accolades. So here's the question. Why would you go anyplace else?
Money.
Okay. Now, if that's that's a setup question.
Yeah.
If that's your only reason, then you probably wasn't made for that locker room to begin with. I'm sorry, like, that's just how I look at it. It wouldn't have mattered if when I came into WVU from Pittsburgh, let's say if the NLI, that stuff was in play, like back when I came in, dude, it wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I really need
relationship.
Well, I really need it, and probably that was the best fit for me. And I could have went anywhere, not to bring back, I could have went anywhere in the freaking country. Right. Anywhere in the country. So for me, I know the importance of bonding with someone. I know the importance of being loyal, and that person it's reciprocated, they're loyal to you. I know the importance of that. Unfortunately, now we don't seem to have that type of continuity with these young people. It's just a different culture. But it's a shame, because while you're chasing the dollar or chasing the bag or whatever you're chasing, you miss out on the development of those things. And long term in life, those are important life skills that these young people are missing out on, Scott. I'm telling you. Yeah, everybody wants the money, the bag, all that good stuff. Yeah, right. When that stuff goes, what do you have left? There's no relationships there.
Exactly. And that money's going to run out soon, like at some point. Like,
I mean, yeah. I'm glad, and I'll say it again, and people can get upset if they want to. West Virginia has always done things a certain way in my book. And I'm very honored to say I didn't go through any of the stuff that most other schools, when they recruited me, did and was willing to do. And that's why I've had so much respect for Darn Nealon, because I will always say this: he did it the right way. He did not cut corners with me. And I respect that. I really do. Because, like I said, me coming out of high school, one of the top recruits in the entire nation, there were things that NILs was back then.
Yeah.
So my point is, West Virginia did it the right way, and I respect. That's why I love the university and the way it was done, even to this day. I'm big on this. If you want to be a Mountaineer and you pick WVU, then you're picking the school for the right reasons. If you go trotting someplace else after you started there, that's your business, and I wish you well. Well, we need to get the kids that want to stay in that uniform and play for for our university, because they're there for the right reasons.
So I guess going back to the AD, sounds like they're going to keep Neal Brown.
Yep.
Don't know how long that's going to be for. Is this a short leash, a long leash, somewhere in between? We don't know. But the early indications are, and from what we've been told, is that they will plan to keep Neal Brown heading into 2023, giving him a fifth year. Do you like this decision? Because I'll give my spiel first. 4 years of Neal Brown, I got to be honest, has been certainly disappointing. They've not quite lived up to the expectations, and we really haven't seen much of this, right? Now, again, how much of that could be Shane Lyons not giving enough of that money or that resource to go out and not only just get guys, but keep their own guys? That could be a big part of it. Maybe that's why they bring in Wren Baker. I don't know. But from a coaching perspective, I've got a lot of red flags. And I've talked about it all throughout the year, certain coaching decisions, situational football. We've talked about it before. I don't want to even get into it. But the positive is you're not having an AD come in here in the first first week of December and have to run an accelerated search for a head coach. And you're going to miss out on all these kids transferring. You're going to have a bunch of kids go to the portal. You're going to have a bunch of kids decommitting. And all of a sudden, you're going to look around and be like Will Smith at the end of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like, where'd everybody go? You know what I mean? So, like, I get that's going to happen whenever you do, even if it's next year, and say they fire Neal Brown next year. If that happens, yeah, you're going to have kids go to the portal. You're going to have kids decommit from your program. But it's all about the timing. Had he been fired, and I know, like you said, they haven't fired guys in season. Had this happened at the beginning of November and the AD was already in place and had a search going on for a month and then made the hire before this transfer portal window hits, that's a different story, because now that new coach can re-recruit everyone that's there and everyone that's about to be there before that transfer portal window opens. Right now, you're going to miss the boat on that. If you fire a guy right now, all your kids are going to go to the portal because they're going to be like, well, I don't even know who the coach is going to be. It may be another month before I find out.
Sure. And also, and those are all great points. And I believe that had to go into the thinking or the process of the thinking of Baker, because if I'm coming in as a new AD, you have to consider all of that. And that comes down, that whole landscape has to be fully mapped out before you make that decision. Because if you make the wrong decision, the minute you step in, then now you got egg on your face.
Yeah.
You have to clean up a lot more mess. You know, mess in aisle two. There's a big mess in aisle two. You got to clean up all of that. I think he's doing it the right way. You come in, you bite off, take little bites. Take little bites at it. You come in, let's sit down and figure out where we going with this, Coach Brown. You know, what's all right. I wasn't here for your first 4 years, but okay. How are we looking going into year 5?
And see, that's the biggest thing for me too, because there's all this talk of like he has to have an evaluation of the coaching staff. Well, to me, I don't know how you work, but I can't evaluate something I've not been a part of because you weren't there. I mean, you
Right.
can look at it and say, "Yep, he went 5-7, 6-6, 6-7, 5-7." Like, yeah, you
Right.
could do that, and those numbers may tell you something, but how much can you trust in everything that you get when you're just looking at paper and you're looking at numbers and analytics? Like, I think it makes sense to at least go 1 year through this with Neal Brown to actually know what it's like and see where that trajectory is going.
Let me have you laughing about this. How many ADs do you know that are football guys? Yeah, that's a loaded question,
Yeah.
right? So that's the reason why you have to go with this and sit there and go through it to see for your. Because if you're not a football guy, oh, you could be fooled.
Yeah.
You could be fooled. Guy can sit in there and talk your ear off, and it sounds good, even though the records have been boo boo. But if he's a good talker, you're like, man, well, this
And Neal
man,
is.
look
He
at it.
definitely convince you.
This is good stuff here. Okay, it's good that Baker is doing what he's about to do. Give Neal Brown going into the season what he needs. Let's see what you can do. You got a really on paper, you got a great recruiting class coming in. So let's see how those kids fit into your system and into your plan, because even that is going to change. I'm telling you that's going to change. Because all it's going to take is one or two of these kids coming through the portal, and you done told this kid over here he's going to come in and compete, and then you get this kid from the portal that's already competed at the same position. Who do you think's going to play?
The guy that just came in.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
So this is why I say be very careful about this guy and 2 stars and 5 stars and 18 stars. Be very careful with all that stuff, because the new age of recruiting now with this portal, you're going to get, situations to where you're going to upgrade certain positions just through the transfer portal. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to look at talent and evaluate talent, and if you have the do-re-mis.
Yeah, because it's a quick Band-Aid, right? I mean, you know what you're getting. It's proven. They've done it before in college. Like, you have college tape. These high school kids, they may look good, but when you get to college, you just don't know. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a great point. So, last thing before we get out of here, Bryce Ford Wheaton announced today that he's going to be entering the 2023 NFL Draft. He did have one more year to return if he did wanted to opt into that, but he's deciding not to. So, just your thoughts about Bryce Ford Wheaton, the player he is, what he did at West Virginia, and maybe what kind of things you think he can do in the NFL.
Scott, let me tell you something, man. I think Bryce is a very talented young man. I have no problems with this whatsoever. I wish him the best of luck. He comes from a great family. I love the Ford family. They're great people, man. I wish this young man every ounce of success in the NFL. Now, what do I think? He's just as good as any receiver in this country. And I'm not just saying that because he played at West Virginia. The things that he can do with the ball in his hands after the catch is one thing. How he stems off the line of scrimmage to set up the DBs is another thing. His route running is another thing. His ability to catch the ball away from his body with all hands is another thing. Going to get it across the middle and not being afraid to take a hit in traffic is another thing. He has every legitimate skill set at that position as any other receiver in this country. So for me, I think he's going to do very well at the next level. I really do, because he's a big receiver that's not afraid to mix it up, and he got some attitude with him. I love that. He brings the lumber with him. I like that. You know what I mean? He's not going to shy away from contact. I love all of that. So, young man, listen, job well done. You did what you were supposed to do here at WVU. Now it's your time to go and take your ability someplace else. And I wish you nothing but the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely got a chance to succeed. I don't know if he's going to get drafted, go undrafted. I don't know. Either way, I think he's going to find a team some way, some shape or form. I mean, he's very, very talented on special teams too. So I think that's how you can make your way in the NFL. Get on that special teams unit, make some plays, and hey, it could lead to getting some snaps on the offensive side of the ball.
He'll get drafted, Scholar, because you know why? He's going to show out when he goes. What when they work him out and they see his measurables, please. You kidding me? Oh yeah,
Big,
no.
long, fast receiver. Yeah, that he's definitely going to have some people.
He'll be he'll get drafted.
Players.
Yeah, he'll get drafted. And matter of fact, when he gets drafted, you and I will even talk about potentially down the road where he'll get drafted, and then we'll put a stake on it.
There we go. So I'll keep that in the back of my mind. Maybe that's something I can beat you in if I can't beat you in the DVM Pick'em. So speaking of the DVM Pick'ems, we're going to be doing that tomorrow on the Walkthrough Game Day Show. We're going to preview the conference championship weekend. We're going to make those picks, plus the season recap of West Virginia. We're going to talk the offense, the defense, what went wrong, and maybe a glimpse into the future. Is that Garrett Green? Gene and I will discuss tomorrow. So that's all for the Between the Ears show. Give us go onto YouTube, subscribe, Mountaineers Now. Go to Twitter, hit that follow button. Same thing, Mountaineers Now as well. So for Eugene Napoleon, I'm Skylar Callan. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.